won't be much of a turnout.
All right.
So,
Select.
it is, isn't it? Are they going to turn the lights down so that we can't see how depressing it all is? All these chairs are sumptuous.
It's like an armchair, huh?
It is.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to our,
Me?
what shall we say? Our rendezvous with Eric Golden, Wreckless Eric. I've been a fan of Wreckless Eric stuff since the first album came out in 10-inch, which tells you a lot about Eric's approach to conventionality.
It wasn't my approach, it was the record company's.
Oh, no. Oh,
they said,
you've ruined an illusion.
No, they said, we're going to put it out as a coloured 10-inch. What colour do you want it to be? And I actually said, oh, shit. Meaning I didn't want coloured vinyl. And guess what?
It's shit brown.
Yeah, they did. And yes, and somebody made a mistake on italics and put an extra 0 on the italics that went to the pressing plant. So there are more of them than you could ever fit in a whole universe, unfortunately.
Well, rest assured, it's a very good album, and it came out in 12-inch shortly
And
after that.
also, you have to slow it down on the record player because they cut it too fast.
Oh, really?
Yes, they did. I hate my life. So I sounded like I was on helium. I probably was. Yeah, probably, yeah.
So on this first album,
Carry on.
Eric was also kind of like the Nostradamus for us all. It says here approximately 1 in 36,000 people break a leg within 3 weeks of listening to this record.
And there's
Has
another
this been
statistic on here, I think. There's a different one. Yes, 1 in 5 million people who listen to this recording go deaf in one ear.
Okay.
We haven't tested this out.
Formalities for a second.
Right,
Formalities for a
carry
second.
on.
You will... No, oops, it's not up there yet. But in a minute, you'll get a QR code on the back because experimentally the talk will be translated by KI. And if you Google or go on that QR code, it says you what to do next, and you will have an instant translation
This is
of
marvellous,
the talk
isn't
thing.
it? Marvellous. You didn't tell me this was going to happen.
I was just told a moment ago.
No, it's marvellous. Let's go through this now. You've got the QR code here. The QR code, okay. Now, you're going to choose your language here. English, US, you don't want that. Click on attend here. And this is a telephone. Right, good, right. Okay. I've always wanted to do that, you know.
So
Right.
Eric made a lot of really fantastic records, most of which I have. This one was his second record. It's got a fantastic song on it called The Final Taxi, which I love that song, but no, I'm not asking you to sing it. This is even better than Ship Brown Vinyl.
Oh, my God.
This is a picture disc. Whoop, there.
No.
Oh, wow.
God. I don't... why? Oh, my God. I did it under duress. I did, you know. I mean, like, I didn't get a choice in anything in those days. I mean, they'd say, OK, we're shooting your record cover. And you go, oh, right. And they say, put this on, stand like that. So I put on whatever. Well, I mean, my first album was a joke that backfired. You know, we wanted to make the first jazz punk album ever. But then we ended up with a cover that looked like Herman's Hermits, or Herman without the Hermits. And coincidentally, a couple of years ago, I was in North Carolina. I was eating in a restaurant next to the venue before the show, and this woman sidled up to me and said, "Excuse me, but aren't you Peter Noon?" and she wouldn't take no for an answer.
So you said to start singing No Milk Today?
No, I'm like, fuck off, I'm happily married, you know. Yeah.
So,
Carry on.
Eric made some wonderful records and one or two that he hates. In
Well,
fact,
I don't really hate them, you know.
In fact, he's just made a new one that will come out in a couple of months, which is him going back to an album that he did in the 80s.
Yeah, no one liked it, and I knew I was right about it, but I did it again because I suddenly figured out one day I know how to do this now. I could do this, and yeah, so I did. But I wished I hadn't when I was in the middle of it, and then I was glad I did when I was at the end of it. And I think everyone will like it this time, with any luck.
Well, one of the songs is already out on with a little video on the internet, and it's rather wonderful.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Well, he put out other CDs, just records, just to show you. One is just called Wreckless, Eric, with a lovely British suburban house.
Come here. It's actually called Bungalow High. Look, it's on the...
Oh, come on, that's on the back.
That's the... No,
Every
it's
same
not. That's
person
not the
puts-
back. That is the spine. No, you don't... You can do anything you like because nobody's looking. Nobody bloody cares. But there's always some smart ass. This album is called Bungalow High. It's owned by the Fire Record label, who are awful. I didn't say that. I know it'll get back to them that I said that, but I didn't. And this one came out again on Fire Records. It was called Le Beat Group Electrique, and I don't know what the guy who did the cover was taking, but never mind. And this one, I'm very proud of this one. This is completely homemade and has my ex-sister-in-law's Fiat Panda on it, which is one of those ones without a radiator grille, just slots in the front of the car.
What a car.
That was a fantastic car that you...
thing ran.
Yeah, it did, yeah. I mean, like, it was a death trap, I think, but, you know, we didn't die in it. And it was great. You could drive all the way down from Dieppe down to Bordeaux on five euros worth of gas. Well, it was 50 francs at the time, but it wasn't a lot of money. Well, it was to us, but, you know, yes.
We have a couple of newer ones.
This
as well.
one's
He's never
my
stopped
latest.
making music.
Never stopped. You've missed out a lot, but yeah.
That's already a fucking fortune I spent there on you.
I thought you were a music journalist. I thought you got all this shit for free.
I had everything, but I couldn't find it anymore. I have to tell you. So this is all about this book that Eric has written about his life.
I thought we were never going to get round to that.
And I had the first edition, and I've spent hours trying to look for it in my bookshelves. Yeah. And then I looked at an interview I did with Eric 10 years ago, and one of the first things it said, I was trying to look for this book of yours, and I realized I lent it out and never got it back. So I wasted the whole day looking for a book that I don't actually have. But
it's not my fault.
Well, it's your fault for making it and me having it.
Yes, you should always label your books. Mm-hmm. I once spent an entire night in a very posh house in Switzerland where I had played at a private function, and then I was put up in a room that was like a library in this private house by the people who organised the function, who were extremely patronising. And they said, well, you're going to be in this library book room. There's a lot of books, not that will probably make much difference to you. And they thought I was thick, you know. I mean, okay, yeah. And I had just the night before, I had played at the university in Kassel, where I had removed one of those printing kits that you put all the letters together and make a rubber stamp. And I made a rubber stamp up that said Derek and Trudy asshole. And I spent the entire night stamping the inside cover of all their books. I've never told anyone.
I'm glad you told us.
Yeah, so, don't invite me round.
Well, I'm worried about my CDs and my book now.
No, you'll be all right. I mean,
So,
are we going to get on with this? Is this going all right?
This is going perfectly swimmingly
Yeah,
well.
good, terribly.
But the idea was basically that Eric will read passages from his very readable book. Ernst will read the German version of it, and in between, Eric will also sing a few songs.
Right, we're going to do this all at the same time, one word at a time.
Okay.
Would you like me to read something?
I think that would be fantastic.
It would be an idea, really, wouldn't it? I don't know if I can. Right.
We're talking about your youth now.
We are, yeah. Right, this is the bit that I wrote in this book, like when it got reissued. And I kind of feel like I got better at writing, but never mind. My mother lived in Manchester as a teenager during the Blitz of World War II. She survived the nightly bombing raids, but that, and as it transpired, an abusive childhood, left their mark. She was a delightful person, and I absolutely loved her. At her funeral, I described her as my first friend, and she was a friend for life, but she was never easy. My relationship with my dad was complicated. He died shortly before I started writing the book, and even though I was trying to keep a lid on it, as much for my mother's sake as anything, my resentment was close to boiling over. I have a much greater understanding now of why he was like he was. He was addicted to steroids. The addiction wasn't his fault. When I was 2 years old, he was diagnosed with a chest disease called sarcoidosis. The condition was treated with massive doses of steroids that left him with a lifelong dependency. Steroids have terrible side effects. Even the drug companies admit to it now. But in the 1950s and 60s, we didn't know this. He was dark, moody, bad-tempered, negative, detached, disinterested. I grew up thinking that grown men were very scary. Even when they were being nice, they grunted and grumbled, and when they were in a bad mood, the whole fucking world was plunged into misery. He was actually a very kind man who cared deeply for his family, but I feel I only saw the real man in occasional glimpses. The kindness and caring were largely concealed behind a steroid mask. I wish I'd understood this earlier. Thank you.
Meine Mutter lebte als Teenagerin in Manchester während der Bombardierung im Zweiten Weltkrieg. Sie überlebte die nächtlichen Angriffe, aber das und, wie sich herausstellte, eine missbräuchliche Kindheit hinterließ Spuren. Sie war eine wundervolle Person und ich liebte sie über alles. Bei ihrer Beerdigung beschrieb ich sie als meine erste Freundin. Und sie war eine Freundin fürs Leben. Aber sie war nie einfach. Meine Beziehung zu meinem Vater war kompliziert. Er starb kurz, bevor ich anfing, das Buch zu schreiben. Und obwohl ich versuchte, es zu unterdrücken, so gut es ging, vor allem meiner Mutter zuliebe, drohte meine Wut überzukochen. Heute verstehe ich viel besser, warum er so war, wie er war. Er war süchtig nach Steroiden. Und die Sucht war nicht seine Schuld. Als ich 2 Jahre alt war, wurde bei ihm eine Lungenkrankheit namens Sarkoidose diagnostiziert. Die Krankheit wurde mit massiven Dosen von Steroiden behandelt, die ihn sein Leben lang abhängig machten. Steroide haben schreckliche Nebenwirkungen. Selbst die Pharmaunternehmen geben das heute zu, aber in den 1950ern und 60ern wussten wir das nicht. Er war düster, launisch, jähzornig, negativ, distanziert, uninteressiert. Ich wuchs mit dem Gefühl auf, dass erwachsene Männer sehr beängstigend waren. Selbst wenn sie nett sein wollten, grummelten und brummten sie, und wenn sie schlechte Laune hatten, wurde die ganze verdammte Welt ins Elend gestürzt. Er war eigentlich ein sehr gütiger Mann, dem seine Familie sehr am Herzen lag, aber ich habe das Gefühl, den echten Mann nur gelegentlich, kurz gesehen zu haben. Die Güte und Fürsorge waren größtenteils hinter einer Steroidmaske verborgen. Ich wünschte, ich hätte das früher verstanden.
When do you think you started becoming aware that your father was actually to be pitied rather than a hateful figure?
He wasn't to be pitied exactly. He was, well, you know, I did grow up thinking that, like, well, when I got older and I kind of paid attention to other kids' dads, they were kind of really unexpectedly nice. You know, I mean, my dad he was just furious. He was so up. I mean, he was on a massive dose of steroids. It's really kind of, it makes you angry. And as I got older, I mean, they tried to get him off. They tried to get him off the drugs, and they put him in hospital, and he would get to the point where he was dying. So they would have to up the dose, and they never got it down. I mean, they know, doctors and medical people know a lot more now, but I think you can't underestimate the damage that drug does. Yeah.
In retrospect as well, how did it affect your way of looking at life when you were a child in that?
Yeah, after they tried to get him off the drugs, by the time when I was 17, they got me a driver's license, like a provisional license, put our plates on the car, and I drove my dad everywhere. I mean, a week after my 17th birthday, which was the legal, you know, you could drive when you were 17, I could drive anything. I could drive a car. And I was real good at it, you know, and I drove him, and then eventually, sometime after I was, you know, a few months after I was 17, I passed my driving test, and I had to drive him. He couldn't see, he was blind. And then they did cataract surgery, which was like each eye, you had to lie still for over a week. You had to just lie on your back completely still, which I don't think does anyone any good. And, you know, and then there was like, after that, it was kind of, I left home, but there was a catalogue of stuff. He slowly went downhill, and he actually died when he was my age. He died when he was 71, but he had been falling to pieces. His kidneys were failing, his liver was failing, his lungs were all screwed up. His mind was starting to get screwed up, and he had no motivation. He was intermittently diabetic for most of his adult life. Due to, it was all side effects of the drug, and eventually he died from it, you know. So it didn't make me feel very good, I suppose.
Didn't make you an optimist,
you know, I mean, I think we were all pretty negative, actually. He was negative because of that. My mum was negative because she spent every night under the stairs. We went to the house where she grew up, and it was in a terrace street with little gardens, and across the street there was a hole in between the houses, and it was all held up with big timbers, you know. And I said, well, why isn't there a house there? I was like 8 years old. She said, oh, that one got a direct hit. And I said, well, where were you? And she said, we were in our house. It was like across the street. And she said, we were under the stairs in our house. She couldn't stand to hear loud noises. She was kind of like that all the time. What? You know. Yeah.
But there's also, you see, kind of there's on the BBC archive thing. There's a film of Liverpool in the mid-50s, and it looks absolutely grim.
Yeah.
And whenever you read about England in late 50s until the Beatles came along, it looks like a place where you really didn't want to spend.
Yeah.
J.G. Ballard came back from China, where he had an awful time, and comes back to England as a 17-year-old and says, it looked like England were the losers because China was better than this.
Oh, yeah, yeah. If you go to, well, I know that, you know, I used to spend a lot of time in Kassel in Germany. And if you look at the houses there, they're all quite they kind of look quite old-fashioned at the bottom. And then you look up and they're kind of sketchy as they used to be. I mean, they probably smartened it all up now, but they were kind of like, because they'd rebuilt them with whatever they got. So, but we never had a proper rebuilding program. So, like, when I was growing up, there were bomb sites everywhere. There were places they didn't know what people owned anymore. There were empty houses. I mean, if you like smashing windows, which is every boy's dream, really, you know, it was open season, you know. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm not painting a very good picture of myself, am I?
You were naughty, obviously. Would you like to sing a song?
I was like, yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, this is something that I do in my... Right, okay. I know we have a plan, you know. We sketched this out, you know, the whole kind of... I'm not playing with myself. I'm just trying to find a guitar pick, yeah. My dad worked in a factory. I tried it too, but I couldn't do with the tedium of the everyday. I flunked out, I'm not ashamed to say. While he was steady, I was a flake. I lived my life from scrape to scrape. Now I'm older, I'm a lot like him. History coming back again. I've got this name and it doesn't fit. I don't know what I can do about it. They say the child is the father to the man. So I'll just do what I can. Started out on the factory floor. He worked his way through the boardroom door. Voted for the right wing all his life. Though I tried hard, he couldn't see the light. I love my dad, but I don't wanna be him. A history that's coming back again. I've got this name and it doesn't fit. I don't know what I can do about it. They say the child is the father to the man. So I'll just do what I can.
So, as you were hitting your teenage years,
Yes.
interesting sound there.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You started buying records.
Records. Yeah. Of course. I mean, it was. I think in 1962, the Beatles came along, and you know, I was 8 years old. And so from the age of 8, I was interested, and by the time I was 9, I was absolutely obsessed. And then it was like there were more and more bands, and there were records, and there was just this scene of stuff, and it was removed from where we lived, and we lived in this really kind of purpose-built bungalow, you know, and it was really cold. It had cardboard ceilings and a concrete floor with little thin marley tiles on the floor and little slip rugs and heating that didn't quite work and very thin glass in the windows, and it was right on the top of a cliff top on the South coast, and it was freezing and the windows rattled and it was just cold, and my parents never ate anything because they not got used to the end of rationing. I figured we never had enough to eat. So my escape was the radio and the records that we for some reason, my dad bought a record player, but it was actually so that we could learn foreign languages, so that there was this new thing called going on holiday abroad, and we were going to do that. But, you know, I mean, soon I kind of subverted the whole record player idea and started playing pop music.
He didn't like that, did he?
Well, probably not. He kind of liked the Shadows, and he thought the Beatles were very professional. But when the Rolling Stones came on Sunday night at the London Palladium, he actually got up and turned the TV off and said, "That's not entertainment." And when he heard that we'd been watching this show called Ready, Steady, Go, and The Who had been on, and they smashed up their equipment, he was incensed. He said, "But that's not something that you want to see on the television." You know, it was great, really. I mean, he was a perfect dad in that way. He was straight-laced, you know. Something to kick against. Yes.
So how many guitars did you trash at the gig?
I don't think I've had guitars break. I had this guitar that's on the front of this album cover. It was actually stolen from Cyril Jordan from the Flaming Groovies. I didn't know this when I bought it, but later on I was playing it somewhere, and like suddenly there wasn't a headstock on it. It had gone missing, and I got it back. I found it at the back of the stage later, and I put it in a case and took it to a guitar repairer who absconded with it. And last I heard, he was living in Australia. I don't know what happened to the
Your
guitar.
next Australia tour.
Yes.
So chase that.
Yes, but anyway, yes. Yeah. Would you like me to read something?
I think that would be fantastic.
I'm trying to get through this. You know, we've got a schedule to keep to, but you're very lax. I've been told that trying to do this with me is like herding kittens. You know, I mean, like that's what people think. I mean, they're free to think. I listen to the transistor radio all the time, Radio London or the other pirate radio station, Radio Caroline. But increasingly, I tuned into the new government station, Radio 1. It wasn't as good, but the reception was better. In the evenings, after 7:30, Radio Luxembourg played pop music. Really good stuff sometimes, but the reception was diabolical. You heard it across a sea of squelch and phasing. I bought I Can See for Miles by The Who in the record shop in New Haven on a Saturday afternoon. Then I had to meet my mum, who was visiting a friend, a woman she knew in town. This woman had a son who was older than me. He was a mod, a real live fighting on Brighton Beach mod. We eyed each other up in a surly teenage way, and he said, "Got a record? What you got?" I showed him. "Good choice," he said, and led me into the dining room where there was a Dansette record player. He turned it up louder than I ever dared turn ours up when my parents were in the house, and played soul music for me until it was time to go home. My mum gave me a purple shirt, even though I'd done badly at school. It came with a cardboard tag, a picture of a hep cat playing the drums, surrounded by adoring teenage girls. It was exactly the sort of thing. My ambition was to own a shirt with a button-down collar. I got a dark blue shirt with white cuffs and a white button-down collar, like the one Ray Davies wore when the Kinks played Autumn Almanac on Top of the Pops, except that Ray's shirt was light grey and dark grey because the TV was black and white. But I just knew it was a Beverly shirt, exactly like mine.
Ich hörte die ganze Zeit mein Transistorradio, Radio London oder den anderen Piratensender, Radio Caroline. Aber immer öfter stellte ich auf den neuen Staatssender Radio One. Er war nicht so gut, aber der Empfang war besser. Abends nach 7:30 spielte Radio Luxemburg Popmusik. Manchmal richtig gute Sachen, aber der Empfang war katastrophal. Man hörte es durch ein Meer von Gequietsche und Phasing. Ich kaufte I Can See for Miles von The Who am Samstagnachmittag im Plattenladen in New Haven. Danach musste ich meine Mutter treffen, die eine Freundin in der Stadt besuchte. Und diese Frau hatte einen Sohn, der älter war als ich. Er war ein Mod, ein echter Mod, der auf dem Strand in Brighton kämpfte. Wir beäugten uns mürrisch, wie Teenager das tun, und er sagte: Hast du eine Platte? Was hast du? Ich zeigte sie ihm. Gute Wahl, sagte er und führte mich ins Esszimmer, wo ein Dansette-Plattenspieler stand. Er drehte die Musik lauter auf, als ich es je gewagt hätte, wenn meine Eltern im Haus waren, und spielte Soul-Platten für mich, bis es Zeit war, nach Hause zu gehen. Meine Mutter schenkte mir ein lila Hemd, obwohl ich in der Schule schlecht abgeschnitten hatte. Daran hing ein Pappschild mit dem Bild eines coolen Hundes, der Schlagzeug spielte, umgeben von schwärmerischen Mädchen. Genau die Art von Hemd war es. Aber mein größter Wunsch war es, ein Hemd mit Button-Down-Kragen zu besitzen. Ich bekam ein dunkelblaues Hemd mit weißen Manschetten und einem weißen Button-Down-Kragen, genau wie das Ray Davies trug, als die Kinks Autumn Almanac bei Top of the Pops spielten. Nur dass Rays Hemd hellgrau und dunkelgrau war, weil der Fernseher schwarz-weiß war. Aber ich wusste einfach, dass es ein Beverly-Hemd war, genau wie meins.
So we're in the 70s now.
I suppose so. Yeah.
This whole mod thing, which
Well, that kind of mutated into the mods became hippies, which makes sense because it was like hedonism, you know. And along with that came like the underground music scene, and it was and the permissive society. I mean, like I was getting to that age, and I think this permissive society sounds great, but it never kind of made its way as far south of, I mean, we were 60 miles south of London, so it never kind of arrived at us. But I did live near Brighton, which was kind of the San Francisco. It's very similar to San Francisco. It's built on 7 hills, and it's always wet there. It's always raining, where the rest of the counties having beautiful weather, But the bands used to come and play there. And one day I was waiting for the bus to go to school, and I saw this poster, and you couldn't read it, which was really odd because this is like 1968, and you could read what it said on posters, but this was indecipherable, and it took me 2 days to figure it out. It was pink and white, and it said the Pink Floyd, and they were playing at the Brighton Dome, and I figured this out, and it sort of occurred to me I could actually go to that. I could buy a ticket. So I went along to the Dome box office and I bought a ticket to see the Pink Floyd. And this was like, they were starting to do Saucer Full of Secrets. It was really quite early on. Syd Barrett was still at the point where he might show up or he might not. He didn't. So it was like with David Gilmour, and it was the early days of that. And it was utterly mind-blowing. You could see exactly how it was done. You could see the milk bottle sliding down the guitar strings. You could see the slide projectors. There were 5 light shows, and they were projecting all the stuff onto them. You couldn't really see the band. It was just utterly out of this world, and like it kind of, I think it changed my life, you know. Yeah. It was a life.
You didn't think it was like, this is chaos?
No. When at that age, you're kind of open to stuff. You don't know much. You haven't seen stuff. So whatever you see is not out of the ordinary because you haven't seen enough to have developed a sense of the ordinary. So everything is an experience. I see it in my own grandchildren. Everything is an adventure and something to, you know, to be enthralled by. And that was it, really. And I had already decided, when I was 9 years old, I decided to be a pop musician. But I didn't tell anyone, but I had decided that's what I wanted to do. But by the time I got to seeing the Floyd, and then I got to seeing a hell of a lot of other bands, I realised I should just be an underground musician, whatever it was, a rock musician or whatever. And that's all I ever wanted to do.
I find this really fascinating. I mean, the breadth of your musical interest, because in the book there's always lists of the records that you just listen to, and it's like anything from Captain Beefheart to, I think there's some
Dave D, Dozy, Beaky, Mick and Titch, Legend of Xanadu, you know, for instance, yeah.
And that's a really a particular thing about Britain, that on one hand there's this tribal thing where you have all these different groups, like the Mods being absolutely everything in their dress sense.
A lot of that was fueled up by the press. I mean, all the fights in Margate and Brighton, it was like, you know, some sleazy journalists who say, now, there's a crisp 10-shilling note in it for each one of you if you'll go over there and throw some stones at those lads there. Oh, all right. You know, like, you know, no one gave a flying fuck what you wore, really, if you wanted to wear a leather jacket or a three-piece suit.
So Quadrophenia is all kind of
that is the worst film. I saw the Mods in Brighton. The only thing they've got right is that the policemen wore white helmets in the summer in Brighton.
Oh, really?
That's the only thing in that film. And there was a kid, it was just down the road from our house, the kid that rode off the cliff. In the middle of the night he was riding a scooter around and he managed to ride off the end of the cliff because there wasn't a fence. Those are the only things that are right in that film.
Okay. Well, I never
now you know.
Either.
Would you like me to play some more?
Can I just ask you one more thing?
Yes, of course you can.
Before, obviously, you're going to play some more. I'm just intrigued by this tribal thing in the UK, because, I mean, okay, the press thing, I was the enemy was my Bible when I was still in Switzerland, and there was always kind of like, whoever listened to reggae didn't listen to certain type of rock music. Prog fans didn't like punk, etc., and so forth. So there was that, but at the same time,
people were like that. People that didn't know much, and I think punk had a lot to do with that, because it seemed to attract a lot of people that were dim, and people are very good at inventing rules. Like, we do this, we do that. Well, there are no rules. We threw out the rule book, and then we said, well, you do it like this, and then you don't do it like that. And you know, so sure, they I always like Captain Sensible from The Dam, because he's kind of like, people think he's dumb, but he's incredibly intelligent. But he came from bloody Croydon, and his mother was a cleaner, and it's like, you know, a rough place and everything. But he said to me, he said, they told me it was all shit, and I believed them. It's taking me years to catch up, you know, and like, you know, I'm like, yeah, I know you had to, like, I wanted to record a Syd Barrett song, but the record company wouldn't let me. You couldn't admit to liking a group like the Soft Machine, for instance, you know. And we hated Yes, that was official. You couldn't like them, but I mean, like the rules.
Yes, were awful.
You know, I'm going,
face it.
listen, you know, when in 1972 I saw Can play at Sussex University, that was something. I mean, that was fucking incredible. But you couldn't admit to that in the days of punk. Mm-hmm. Because they'd invented rules, but some of us...
Johnny Rotten was the only one who started going on about
cool.
Van der Graaf generators.
Yeah. And if you look at the footage and then look at some footage of early Jethro Tull, you've got the Johnny Rotten thing. It's incredibly similar, and I don't think he would disagree with you. It's just that no one dares say it to him.
Maybe... songs?
Right, okay.
I think you were going to do 2 in a row now, weren't you?
I could, if that's okay.
Please.
You know, yeah. I suppose, yeah, like I say, gosh, I've watched lines and lines of railway lines, blurring as they shoot past train windows. I've sat stationary on the motorways of this world, staring at discarded shoes. I want to carry a card, you know, just like a donor card that says, in the event of an accident, please take my shoes with me. I watched the traffic through yesterday's rain. I've watched the neighbourhood through distorted panes. I look at CD artwork through scratchy grey plastic and see pictures of dinners on tins. I've been up, I've been down, I've spent a fortune in pubs, and I've bitten my nails to the quick. And if I've ever seen such a thing as life in the raw, it was wearing a polyester suit. See, I was brought up on bland, schooled in mundane. We never had fancy when we could have had plain. I was brought up on hard up, schooled in forget it. We never knew different, we only knew same, 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 same. Oh. I gazed into a sink full of water the other night when I was stoned at home. All alone, it felt like I'd been there forever. Stoned at home, all alone. Oh, all alone. I've read reasons into sequences of things that went in threes. I see my future written in tea leaves, and I believe in make-believe. I read my stars and I swallow every word. And when they're not so good, I twist them into something that's okay. I spent half my life waiting for a bus that never came. I could have walked it by now, but it's possibly too late. I worked on being stupid. I cultivated mindlessness, giving the wrong impression where appearances count. But I know exactly where I've come from, though I may have lied about where I've been. It's not that it's not good enough. It's just that it's no fun. See, I was brought up on bland, schooling mundane. We never had fancy when we could have had plain. I was brought up on hard up, schooling forget it. We never knew different. We only knew same. Oh, we knew same in the school of mundane. We knew same. Thank you. A crooked pub propped up the corner of the street, opposite a furniture shop called Everything But the Girl. Rocket-shaped signs declared Space Mate. A brother of a brother-in-law tore all the houses down, moved the people to the outskirts, to places where the buses run, but no one knows quite where they are. I just sold my bass guitar. I ran down Springbank in the rain, tears mingling with the water. I knew it had to be, though I knew there'd be some pain. We've got a gig tonight. We need someone with a car, amplifiers, stolen PA, my Tysco top 20 guitar. Some people never cross the river. The accents are different on the other side of town. Winter sets in amid the stench of fog and fish. Free and easy nights in Carlton bingo. They say they're going to build a bridge connecting nowhere in particular with where no one wants to go. Glories fade away, derelicted houses, the ghosts of yesterday, ruined factories on the east side of town. They're slated for revival, they'll soon be coming down. I just sold my bass guitar. I ran down Springbank in the rain, tears mingling with the water. I knew it had to be, though I knew there'd be some pain. We've got a gig tonight. We need someone with a car. Oh, amplifiers, stolen PA. Me with my Tysco top 20 guitar. Gateway to Europe. It's the start of something big. Gateway to Europe, yeah. to Europe. It's the start of something big. Thank you.
We won't talk about Brexit.
No, it was very funny business, really, because I went to art college in Hull, and when we joined the European Union, I think the Common Market, in 1972, they built a bridge across the Humber Estuary, which was a mystification. I was there from 1973. I moved there, and they were building this huge, great single-span suspension bridge, and they called Hull the gateway to Europe, which I couldn't understand, because if you wanted to make Hull into the gateway to Europe, you could have built a bridge across the North Sea, and that would have been it. But they built a bridge to this county called Lincolnshire, which is a very mean and hard scrubbed kind of place where they grow vegetables, and raise pigs, and they don't like people, they don't like outsiders. It's still a weird place to drive across. It's just flat and kind of vegetables everywhere, which is good, but I didn't see what the bridge was all about. I mean, it was a stupid thing. And then on the back of that, they shut down all the fishing industry. They got the container fishing ships, which was, the fishing, like agricultural fishing, which put all the local trawler men out of business, which was the backbone of Hull's industry, was the fishing thing,
Were you there when there was the Cold War with Iceland?
Yes. Yes. It was... it left a hugely bad feeling. Then they knocked down the whole centre of town and moved everyone out, and they kind of dissipated the place. It's taken Hull a long time to come back. And it's kind of no surprise that when they got the chance to get out of Europe, they just went, well, getting into Europe didn't do us much. So they voted to get out, which I really wish they hadn't done. I mean, a lot of people wish they hadn't done it. That we hadn't had that. I thought it was a referendum. It's funny that before Brexit, the dictionary definition of a referendum in the Oxford English Dictionary was a vote to gauge public opinion with a view to possibly taking a course of action. Post-Brexit, the Oxford English Dictionary definition of a referendum has been changed to a vote to take action. And I find that slightly sinister, but no one else seems to have fucking noticed. Yes. It's an odd thing. But anyway, yes, that's Brexit. I'm sorry. You're better off without us, I know. It's very sad. You come through the airport and it says EU, others, I'm going, we have to go through others now. It makes me sad.
Would it be right to say that art school in Hull offered you a kind of a way out, just like music had done before, from the same of middle-class aspirationalism?
It kind of... Not at the time. I mean, at the time and over time, it was the absolute making of me. I went to art college in Bristol. You had to do a foundation course, and I went there. I didn't really like it there. It was all a bit disappointing, really. And I didn't know how to live. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to work a laundrette. I didn't know how to do the simplest thing, really. I was completely dysfunctional, but I got through that, and I went and I got into the art college in Hull, and it's kind of, I mean, I still have a lot of friends and a lot of connection there. And one of my tutors is one of my closest friends now. And yeah, I started playing in bands. I still play with someone that, like, you know, who I met in 1973 when I first got there, who was he was a dysfunctional kid from Great Yarmouth in the far east of England. I mean, he was weird. He still is, and he's a keyboard player, and he's really great, and he plays in my band now, and it's like we have this connection from all those years. That is, I think that's a very special thing, but there's a lot, you know. Hull was a special place. When I got there, the Spiders from Mars, David Bowie's band, Mick Ronson, Trevor Bolder, Woody Woodmansey, they had just left there to move to London to be, you know, it wasn't that long, it was just about 3 years or something that they'd been away from Hull. And, they, you know, you played in places that they had played in that were their regular gigs. I think they were called the Rats. And, yeah, I met Woody Woodmansey like a few years ago. And I got introduced to him, and I mean, a dumb thing. I said, "Is it true that you once lived in Woodmansey?" And he looked at me and said, "Yeah, I did." And I said, "Oh, yeah, because there's this village outside of Hull called Woodmansey, and he actually lived there. Woody Woodmansey lived in Woodmansey." So, like, and I said, "Only I used to live in Hull." He said, "Yeah, I know you did." And he knew all about me, and I'm kind of like, fuck, you know, I didn't know. But I mean, like, yeah, it was, yeah, there's a thing about Hull, an incredibly special.
The book makes it sound as if there was absolutely countless opportunities for 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds to play live every day.
No, there was countless opportunity for real adults to play and work in men's clubs, you know. I mean, there was a club down the street from me, and like on any weeknight, like you walk past it, the door would burst open, and a couple of drunks would reel out, and with a billow of blue sort of cigarette smoke, and you'd hear someone in there going, "Tie a yellow ribbon round the old oak tree," and you know, or you'd hear them calling the bingo or something. So those were the kind of gigs there were. The rest of it was like, I mean, we used to get beaten up in the car park at those kind of gigs, you know. But we did them, you know, banks of the Ohio. And like, you know, if you were really clever, you could sneak in a T-Rex number.
So in those days, everyone went to art school by the sound of it to start a band.
I mean, but well, a lot of people went to art school. I mean, I don't know. In my particular case, all this started when I was at school. I mean, this is an incredible thing that I kind of thought was normal, and then I thought about it, and I thought it really isn't normal. That my class at school was me, Pete Thomas, who was the drummer with Elvis Costello and the Attractions, Andrew Rankin, who was the drummer in the Pogues, and Tom Morley, who was in Scritti Politti.
All in your class?
We were all in the same class together. And two classes up from us, a bit older, was Robin Scott, who did pop music. And in the class below us, there was Julian Scott, who was the bass player in the band Rugulator, and later with Lena Lovitch. So there was that was when I was at school. I don't know what it was, but we were all there. And then when I went to the art college, I didn't go to university, but the art college, John Bradbury was at the art college. He was the drummer in the Specials later. Whoa. And also Henry Priestman.
The Christian?
The Christians. He was in the Yachts and then the Christians, yeah. And him and the other guy in the Yachts, Martin, I've forgotten his name. Yeah, but anyway, they were in the art school too, so it was kind of a bit weird, really. So I don't know if it was art school or it following me around, but I will admit that it was in the back of my mind that John Lennon and Pete Townsend and Ray Davies had all been to art college, and that might be the way. But I mean, I did actually seriously want to be a painter, you know. Like, I think there's things about art college that will take that away from you for a while. But I became an artist. It took me years to realise that I was actually an artist. I just thought I was some ne'er-do-well, you know. But it was all down to Hull, really.
Would you like to read that passage now about singing a certain song?
Oh, you want me to? Yeah, right. Well, yeah.
Since we're still in Hull.
I can, yeah, because, like, yeah, I mean, it's a funny, yeah. Summer 1974. I had girlfriend trouble. I didn't want to see her. So I took a walk to the one place I was sure she'd never follow me. She'd never find me. The university. I hated the university. I hated the students with their endless reenactments of Monty Python sketches, their societies and their prankish games. The university was the last place you'd find me, so that's where I went. I had a couple of drinks in the Union Bar, but the ambience got on my nerves, so I walked out. I strolled down the Cottingham Road, wondering what to do about my love life. Something my mum had said a couple of years previously drifted into my head. I sat on a bench on one of the grass verges. It was a warm evening, and the scent of newly mown grass was in the air, with its promise of endless summer nights, romance, new beginnings. The idea slowly took shape. When I was a young boy, my mama said to me, "There's only one girl in the world for you, and she probably lives in Tahiti." She really said that. Do you want to read that in German for these people?
Sure.
And I can start to explain it if you'd like me to.
When after the German, yeah, that
But you want me to read the entire thing?
Yeah.
Und dann kam der Sommer 1974. Ich hatte Ärger mit meiner Freundin. Ich wollte sie nicht sehen, also ging ich an einen Ort, von dem ich sicher war, dass sie mich dort niemals finden würde. Die Universität. Ich hasste die Universität. Ich hasste die Studenten mit ihren endlosen Wiederaufführungen von Monty Python-Sketchen, ihren Vereinigungen und ihren Streichen. Die Uni war der letzte Ort, an dem man mich finden würde, also ging ich dorthin. Ich trank ein paar Drinks in der Union Bar, aber die Atmosphäre ging mir auf die Nerven, also haute ich ab. Ich schlenderte die Cottingham Road entlang und fragte mich, was ich mit meinem Liebesleben anfangen sollte. Ein Satz, den meine Mutter ein paar Jahre zuvor gesagt hatte, schwebte mir durch den Kopf. Ich setzte mich auf eine Bank auf einem Grasstreifen. Es war ein warmer Abend und der Duft von frisch gemähtem Gras lag in der Luft mit seinem Versprechen auf endlose Sommernächte, Romantik, Neuanfänge. Die Idee nahm langsam Gestalt an. Als ich ein kleiner Junge war, sagte meine Mama zu mir, es gibt nur ein Mädchen auf der Welt für dich und sie lebt wahrscheinlich in Tahiti. Ja, das hat sie wirklich gesagt. Ich hatte Kevin Ayers im vergangenen Jahr 3-mal gesehen und wollte genau solche Songs schreiben. voller Romantik und heißem Sonnenschein. Songs wie Clarence in Wonderland, Take Me to Tahiti und Caribbean Moon. Das war so ein perfekter Anfang. Oder vielleicht ist sie auf den Bahamas, wo das karibische Meer blau ist. Ich war mir nicht sicher, wo die Karibik im Verhältnis zu den Bahamas lag, aber es klang gut und ich konnte bereits die Grillen zirpen hören, den Hintergrund für meinen Herzschmerz. Weint in einer tropischen, mondhellen Nacht, weil ihr niemand von dir erzählt hat. Es war wie eines dieser Green Lady Gemälde, eine dunkelhäutige Jungfrau mit einer Rose im Haar als Silhouette vor einem türkisfarbenen Tropenhimmel. Ein großer silberner Mond spiegelte sich auf dem Wasser, Fischerboote und ferne Hütten. I'd go the whole wide world, I'd go the whole wide world just to find out. Ich würde um die ganze weite Welt gehen, ich würde um die ganze weite Welt gehen, um sie zu finden. Es war ein Mantra. Vielleicht ergaben die Worte nicht wirklich Sinn, aber für mich taten sie das. Und wie sich später herausstellte, für 1 Million andere Leute auch. Ich sang es auf dem ganzen Weg nach Hause in meinem Kopf, damit ich es ja nicht vergaß. Go the whole wide world, go the whole wide world, find out where they hide her. Ich würde um die ganze weite Welt gehen, würde um die ganze weite Welt gehen, um herauszufinden, wo sie verstecken. Das Beste daran, ich fand, man konnte es mit nur 2 Akkorden spielen. Purer, einfacher Zen-Ausdruck. Und genauso gut wie Kevin Ayers. Und als ich nach Hause kam, saß sie auf der Türschwelle. Wo warst du? Ich habe stundenlang gewartet. Ich bin nur spazieren gegangen. Ich würde um die ganze weite Welt gehen. Ich würde um die ganze weite Welt gehen. Also, kann ich dann reinkommen? Wie du meinst. Finde heraus, wo sie sich verstecken. Es ist dir egal, oder? Natürlich ist es mir nicht egal. Schmacht in einer Hitzewelle dort. Hoffe, dass ich nicht lange wegbleibe. Nun, du verhältst dich aber nicht so. Halt die Klappe bitte, ich versuche das hier auszuarbeiten. Zu diesem Zeitpunkt hielt ich mein Ohr an den unverstärkten Bass, um es zu hören. Ich war mir jetzt sicher, dass es keinen dritten Akkord brauchte. Ich glaube, wir trennten uns in dieser Nacht. Aber ich bemerkte es kaum, weil ich gerade meinen besten Song überhaupt geschrieben hatte.
I think you want to tell us about the music as well.
Yeah. Yes, that was all on 2 chords. Oh God, I had to run all the way home and try and remember how it went. I've written down the verses on an envelope. And this bit, I go like this, I go. I go the whole wide world, I go the whole wide world just to find her. I go the whole wide world, I go the whole wide world, find out where they hide her. And that made absolutely perfect sense to me. You see, it was like what you would do, you know. I go the whole wide world, I go the whole wide world just to find her. Wide world, I go the whole wide world, find out where they hide her. So I had a band and I said, look, I've got this song and it goes like this, and I played it to them and they said, what the fuck is that? It's only got 2 chords in it. And I was like, well, that's cool, surely that's really good. It doesn't have a 3rd chord, it doesn't go. That that would be crap, surely. And they said, yeah, but you can't have a song with 2 chords. And also, it goes out of time in the chorus. It should go, I go the whole wide world, I go the whole wide world, find out where they hide it like that. Oh God, no, that's no good. And like, we couldn't actually do the song because we'd always end up hitting each other and fucking storming out, throwing bottles at each other. And it was not the vibe of this song, you know, because nobody understood. But then we got a band together with my friend Graham Beck, who was the keyboard player who I told you about. And like, you know, he had stopped playing music and got serious about painting. And then I said, Graham, like, will you please come and play in my new band? And he said, sure, yeah, I'm going to do that. And so we had the same problem. I got everyone together and I said, look, I've got this song and it goes like this. And like, Graham was the and he was going... And I was going... And it sounded great, but everyone's going, but it goes out of time. And he said, no, it's just got 2 extra beats in the chorus. And that's all it took. And everyone's going, oh, really? That's really cool. Or maybe she's in the Bahamas, where the Caribbean Sea is blue. Weeping in a tropical moonlit night because nobody's told about you. I go the whole wide world, I go the whole wide world just to find her. I go the whole wide world, I go the whole wide world, find out where they hide her. And we play this song for hours. We played it 3 times every night. We had a gig at the Bull Hotel on the Beverly Road, in the back room, and there was a taxi office underneath with a flashing yellow sign, and that would be flashing on and off, and the radio from the taxi office came through the equipment, and it was like Graham's electric piano and my kind of scratchy guitar and his bass. And we were just great. I mean, we should have stayed there. You know, for years we should have just stayed in that pub. I mean, I met my wife in that room. But then I went to London and Nick Lowe got involved and suddenly it didn't go dup, 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 dup. I think the words were, we can do an awful lot better than that. So we did it like this. Why am I hanging around in the rain out here, trying to pick up a girl? Why are my eyes filling up with these lonely tears when there's girls all over the world? Well, if she's lying on a tropical beach somewhere underneath the tropical sun, pining away in a heat wave there, hoping that I won't be long. I should be lying on that sun-soaked beach with her, caressing a warm brown skin. And then in a year, or maybe not quite, we'll be sharing the same next of kin. I Yeah.
It grieves me though,
Right.
Eric, to tell you that we have nearly reached the end of our time.
We've nearly reached the end of our tether.
There is, needless to say, a lot more to talk about tomorrow when we meet again at 2:00.
Yes, we're doing
because
that.
we've left out an awful lot. But we have one more passage for you to read, the last one.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I can. I think, yes, I
Or
think.
can you still talk?
Yeah, of course I can still talk. You know, I've been doing this for years. I've been playing in bands for like 50 bloody years. I mean, like, I sing and play, do stuff for a living, you know.
What do you do to keep your voice healthy?
Oh, now that's something
Honey and tea?
that's something that I've just read my wife's new book. She's written this. She's written a book. She's just written a second book, and I'm in it. So she gave me a copy of it to read, and I finished reading it this morning. But I had to explain this bit about Eric Burden, who said in an interview. I told her this. I said, yeah, all that stuff, and people going, ooh, and all these kind of things, red diary, yellow, or whatever it is, you know, and they do all that, but and then they breathe in steam, and they do propolis, and they do exercises, and have vocal coaches. They asked Eric Burden, what do you do? And he's one of the greatest singers. And he said, I just groove with whatever comes out. Isn't that cool?
That is very cool.
Yeah, he just sings. I mean, like, I don't do warm-ups and things. I just start. I
You
sing.
just groove.
Yeah,
Well.
and like I think about Eric Burden, just groove with whatever comes out. So, yeah. Yeah, this was years later. I mean, I did some terrible things. I've been sober for 40 years now, but we may have been deluded to think that we could do without the music business, but it was a brave attempt. We were a truly independent group with a genuine punk DIY ethic. I really was starting to have fun again, even though I was haunted by 12 years of hard drinking, ashamed of some of the things I'd done. Memories crowded in on me, and I wanted to go and hide. They used to stop me in my tracks, literally. One day when I was walking down the street, I found myself cowering on the floor in someone's doorway with my jacket over my head. But most of the time, I could keep that sort of thing at bay. Life was a lot better now, and I hadn't had a letter from the Inland Revenue in months. I never started drinking again. It's been 18 years as of the first edition, 38 years as of this edition, 40 years as of 2 weeks ago. In the aftermath, my life fell to bits, but then it slowly got better. There isn't time to talk about that now because this is the end of the book. I wasn't sure how to finish, but somebody told me you just have to stop. Thank you.
Bitte.
Es war eine perfekte Verbindung. Zusammen waren wir unverschämt, arrogant und exzentrisch. Keiner von uns wollte irgendwas mit der Musikindustrie zu tun haben. Bei einem Gig im 100 Club hörten wir einfach auf zu spielen, weil ich einen A&R-Typen von EMI erkannt hatte. Ich sagte ihm, er solle sich verpissen. Wir fingen erst wieder an, als er den Laden verlassen hatte. Und Russ meinte, wir brauchen euch nicht, wir haben unser eigenes Label. Und das hat mehr Buchstaben als eures. Vielleicht war es eine Illusion zu glauben, wir könnten es ohne die Musikbranche schaffen. Aber es war ein verdammt mutiger Versuch. Wir waren wirklich unabhängig, eine echte Punk-Do-it-yourself-Band. Ich fing tatsächlich wieder an, Spaß zu haben, obwohl mich 12 Jahre harten Saufens verfolgten. Beschämt über manches, was ich getan hatte. Erinnerungen drängten sich auf, manchmal so stark, dass ich einfach verschwinden wollte. Einmal ging ich eine Straße entlang und plötzlich kauerte ich mich in einen Hauseingang, Mantel über den Kopf. Aber meistens konnte ich das abwehren. Das Leben war jetzt viel besser und vom Finanzamt hatte ich seit Monaten keinen Brief mehr. Getrunken habe ich nie wieder, mittlerweile seit 18 Jahren, 38 in dieser Ausgabe. Danach fiel mein Leben erstmal in Stücke. Dann wurde es langsam besser. Und darüber ist jetzt keine Zeit mehr zu reden, denn das hier ist das Ende des Buches. Ich wusste nicht, wie ich aufhören sollte, aber jemand sagte mir, man muss einfach aufhören.
Eric, thank you very much.
Wow.
I have to just do a quick.
Thank you. Thank you very much.